Hey guys, this is Anthony DeLoreto here, and this is going to be a Q&A video. I guess you can probably call it my first official YouTube video there is. Hold on, let me get this one fixed. I do apologize for it. So obviously there's already been 2 videos on my YouTube channel, but I'm not really going to count those because they're usually for like something else, I guess. So this is obviously my first YouTube video in terms of trying to make a career out of it, per se. Without further ado, oh yeah, and in case you didn't know, this right here is a Bill Elliott shirt. Elliott was the 1988 Winston Cup champion and a winner of 44 races. I believe this shirt came from the 1982 season. Not that the shirt was made in 1982. No, this shirt is just only a few years old, I guess. But indeed, Bill Elliott, the car you see right here, this was his machine during the 1982 season, which was, by the way, his last season before he was full-time in 1983. 83 was his first full season. But am I here to talk about Bill Elliott or just answer your questions? You know what? I'm going to answer your questions. So without further ado, let's go to the first question. So the first question asked me is, what is your New Year's resolution? Well, not too sure. I guess possibly getting a job and getting paid well, I guess. Also, for my New Year's resolution is to hopefully make some more new friends down the road. And who knows? Maybe it could be the year I get my first girlfriend. Could have get one this decade, but it is what it is. Got a lot of learning to do, if you ask me. So, second question is this. When do you first realize that NASCAR was your favorite sport? So, when did I first realize NASCAR became my favorite sport, you ask? I think a lot would have to do with the paint schemes. I became a fan in the early 2000s. I was first interested in terms of how the paint jobs look on the NASCAR cars, like from Jeff Gordon's paint scheme to Terry Labonte's paint scheme. This car up there, as you can see, I don't know if you can see it, but, well, actually you can. It's just not a good angle or camera shot, whatever. Certain drivers like that had like beautiful paint schemes, for example. Bill Elliott had a nice one. Dale Earnhardt had a nice one. Jeremy Mayfield, and I can keep going on with this list of drivers that I think had the most unique paint schemes. So, in terms of the sponsor they had, what car number they were driving, etc. So NASCAR was my favorite sport because of it. Like, who had the best looking paint job there was? And excuse me, at the end of the day, I thought that Jeff Gordon had, the most beautiful paint scheme in terms of the rainbow scheme. And he drove that rainbow scheme from 93 to 2000. Ran it back for one race in his final full season, 2015. So I thought it was really nice that just realizing that rainbow scheme, which I didn't really grow up with a lot, but I always thought of it as being like a really nice, beautiful paint scheme and whatnot. Anyone won a lot of races with that paint scheme as well, and championships. So yeah, that's when I first realized NASCAR was my favorite sport because of the paint jobs and how cool they were and such. So here's my third question, or at least here's the third question that was sent to me, rather, I apologize. Who is the greatest NASCAR racer of all time? And not just because of their wins, but also their contributions to the sport. Well, I think at the end of it all, I can say Jeff Gordon only won. Dale Earnhardt. To me, it would have to be Richard Petty. Because he's been a part of the sport since the beginning. And he's been a part of the sport even as of today. For those who don't know, his father Lee Petty raced at the what was then called the Grand National levels. He won championships in races and also won the first Daytona 500. And, I mean, Richard Petty has been through it all. And I think he's given a lot of contributions to the sport. SCP, his sponsor as well. And the fact that his son, Kyle Petty, has his own children's foundation for his late son, Adam Petty, who passed away almost 20 years ago. And so I would say for Richard Petty and the Petty family have certainly been a great contribution to the sport in terms of, in terms of their history and such. So I would say that Richard Petty, to me, is no question the greatest racer of all time. I mean, the man's got 200 wins, 7 championships, 7 Daytona 500s, you name it. So he's not only the greatest racer of all time, but he's also that that person who's given a lot of contributions to the sport in terms of his longevity within the sport and how much people respect and love him. And yeah, I think Richard Petty definitely fits that bill. So, fourth question here. Ask me, if you could live anywhere in the world, where would you live? Well, in terms of where I want to live out there in the world, I would say Italy, because it's obviously, one of my family's home countries. I am, of course, Italian-American, and I forgot to point this out in the beginning of the video. I am 75% Italian. I'm not sure what the rest of the percentage is, but I guess I'll try to figure it out later. Either that or I don't remember. But in any case, yeah, Italy would be a great place to live at. United Kingdom would be another one. Or Japan. And I know what you're all thinking. For those who have known me for like the last few years, yes, I am indeed big into Dragon Ball. Dragon Ball is actually my favorite anime of all time. It's really the only anime I watch. That, Z, GT, Super. So Japan would be the greatest place to, visit. Although those people at Tokyo, you go to Tokyo and, boy, there's a lot of people that walk around that facility. I mean, it's like a traffic jam down there. So, but in any case, Japan would definitely be the place I would love to go and visit one day. And if it doesn't happen, well, it is what it is. So, sixth question asked, what is your favorite song? Ooh, wow. Favorite song. Favorite song. Wow. I don't remember who sent me this question, but I will say this. That is a hard question. My mind always changes every time. Whenever I listen to a song, it's automatically my favorite, but for whatever reason, it just kind of goes away quickly. There's been some great songs that I've listened to over the years, from Usher and his song, Yeah. That's the song I grew up with, and I loved it very much when I was 6, 7, 8 years old. As far as what is my favorite song now, like my favorite song, because you got to remember, my mind will always change. For right now, I'm going to say Aerosmith, Just Push Play. I love Aerosmith. A couple of their songs I like. Yeah, I do love listening to Aerosmith. Usher is great to listen to, and yeah, I don't listen to a lot of rap. I'm pretty much open to any music I want to listen to, as long as it's clean. So, seventh question is this. It's pretty much similar to the first one, and the seventh question asks, do you have any goals set for 2020? Probably a similar answer to the first question. Hopefully I get a job, make more friends, etc., etc. And there were other things I didn't mention, like, for instance, pretty much the same as the last couple of years. Trying to save up as much money as I can so that I can finally live on my own. I haven't been able to do that, but not only that, not only to save enough money to live on my own, but maybe perhaps, I haven't thought about it yet, but I'm probably considering maybe going back into college. It might not be next year or 2 years, 3 years. It's going to be a while for sure because of how darn expensive it is. So I would say in about maybe a few years down the road, hopefully I save enough money to be back in college. But as far as 2020 goes, like I said earlier in the first question, have a job, make more friends, make as much money as I can possible, and who knows, finally find that lucky charm. And by lucky charm, I mean finally getting that first girlfriend, which, in my opinion, from my perspective, it may not be to others, but if you think the same way as me, good. If you don't, it's the same thing, good. It would feel like winning a NASCAR Cup race. That's exactly what it would feel like if I were to get my first girlfriend. That in itself would be awesome. It would be. Eighth question asks, what inspired your love for NASCAR and how did you gain so much about it? Well, to be honest, it's like I mentioned earlier in the second question. My love for NASCAR grew because of Jeff Gordon. It was because of the cars. It was because of the paint schemes, the sponsorships, how awesome the racing is. I mean, you can have your different opinions of NASCAR all you want, I mean, not everyone's going to like the same thing, if you know what I'm saying. So, to me, when I look at NASCAR, and why do I have so much knowledge about it? Well, to be honest, it takes a lot of commitment. That's one of the things I love about this sport, is that there's so much rich history that goes along with it. Did I answer the fifth question? Hold on a second. What do you love about NASCAR? I'll get back to that. I'll get back to that in just a second. I accidentally skipped that question, but I guess I'll combine that with the fifth question. And I do apologize for skipping that one. I didn't realize that was the fifth question. I thought the fifth question was the favorite song. Anyways, you know, the reason why I know so much about NASCAR is because, well, obviously I got a ton of books, which I know you can't see, but I've read a lot of the NASCAR books. I've watched a lot of old races. I've listened to Sirius XM NASCAR radio. I've listened to a lot of broadcasters. I've listened to a lot of historians. I've watched documentaries. You know, it takes a lot of commitment to do all these things, and they're not easy to do. You know, it takes a lot of commitment to wanting to get to know about the sport more and more. And because I'm so much in love with NASCAR, is again, you know, is because of the cars and the paint jobs and Jeff Gordon. And not just that, but also the people of NASCAR. The people of NASCAR, I would say, are a great bunch of folks. Really, really nice community. Excuse me once again. And, I mean, just the people in general is what I really love about the sport. The fans, the people who work within the sport, and the drivers as well. I mean, NASCAR is such a great community, and that's one thing I love about this sport. You know, the action it provides, racing-wise, excitement. You know, it's one of those situations where you never know who's going to win. And there's only one guy that can win. So, and that's another thing I love NASCAR. And not only that, you get to compete against a lot of guys. Whereas in, like, all other forms of sports, whether that's the NFL, NBA, Major League Baseball, or even the National Hockey League, you're competing against only one team. In NASCAR, you're competing against 39 others. That's what I love about NASCAR, is that you get to compete against a lot of guys. I like a big field. I like a big field. You know, that's what I love about it. So here's my ninth question, as I've already combined the fifth question with my eighth question, in terms of why I love NASCAR and such. Oh yeah, before I get to the ninth question, I forgot to answer the rest of the eighth question. I also do a lot of research on the internet as well. That's one thing I forgot to mention. RacingReference.info is where I get most of my NASCAR stats from, whenever it pops up in my head for some reason. And jski.com. That's also another NASCAR website. So definitely check those two websites out if you're interested. So here is the ninth question. Favorite Dragon Ball character? Piccolo Daimao. Otherwise known as in the Funimation dub as Demon King Piccolo, which is still accurate, but in the Japanese version, he's known as Piccolo Daimao. Whichever translation you want to use, it's the same thing. Piccolo Daimao is certainly my favorite Dragon Ball character. I look at him as being the guy who was Frieza before there even was a Frieza to begin with. You know, I would say he was definitely villainous. The chaos he created amongst humanity. I mean, I would look at Demon King Piccolo as being that springboard in terms of what Dragon Ball Z was going to be. Because I think if you go back and watch Dragon Ball, you know, there were villains that were really powerful. I think the springboard of featuring, like, Piccolo Daimao, and then you follow that up with his son and reincarnation Piccolo in the 23rd Tenkaichi Budokai, which is also the World Martial Arts Tournament in the dub. It definitely gives you, you know, that teaser of an excitement of what Dragon Ball Z was going to be. And the way Piccolo Daimao was written in Dragon Ball is really the one way I actually, or rather, that's one reason why I love the guy, because of, you know, of what his plans were, and the way that, well, I'll just go ahead and skip it. I think I just ran out of words, and I do apologize for that. That's probably the best I can sum up. But yeah, Piccolo Daimao is a really awesome villain. So here's the 10th question. How did you get Jeff Gordon to follow you on Twitter? Interesting story. Interesting story. So, it was in September of 2016. I was a high school senior at University High School, which is not too far from where I live. I graduated there about 2.5 years ago. So it was September of 2016. I was on Twitter, and it was just another one of those days where I was just on Twitter. I really wasn't doing as much. And I wrote on Twitter saying, you know what, I'm really looking forward to getting this big white Jeff Gordon book, which explains the history about him, what he went throughout his life and such. Pretty much like a more extensive history about Jeff Gordon in that one book. So I tweeted it out, and I did mention Jeff Gordon's profile name. Now, I've been following this guy for 3 years on Twitter. And out of nowhere, what I did not really expect it, the most unexpected thing happened to me, was that he saw the tweet, he liked it, retweeted it, and as a bonus, he started following me. I just could not believe it. I mean, it just made me so... Sorry about that. That might be one of my bloopers videos, I guess. Who knows if I actually make one. Not really. Yeah, having Jeff Gordon follow me on Twitter is really awesome. We haven't really been we haven't been interacting so much on Twitter because there's obviously a lot of people Jeff Gordon's following, and while it is cool that Jeff Gordon's following me back, I also got to remind myself that I still got to treat him the same way as if he wasn't following me. But I do appreciate his follow back, and I think it's really, really cool to have him follow me on Twitter, because I've been following the guy for years and years and years. It goes all the way back to when I was 3, 4, 5 years old. He's an awesome guy, and that's one thing I'll never forget. So, yeah, that's pretty much how it happened. I wrote something on Twitter that I was looking forward to because I had pre-ordered the book, and next thing you know, Jeff Gordon sees it, reacts to it, and follows me. That's how it happened. So here is the 11th question. What were your top 3 moments in your life so far? Ooh, man. Well, actually, it's not as hard as I think, because I think it's really, it's a little bit easier, I guess you can say. As far as top 3 moments of my life, I don't know if I want to go them by order. I guess we'll just do it out of order, because there's so many great moments I've had, or at least some of it. I don't know. Look, I've been around for 21 years, so there's a lot to dig out of for sure. But I guess the first one that comes to mind was meeting Jeff Gordon for the first time in February of 2012. It was on a Thursday afternoon. It was actually on a school day. I, of course, went to Discovery Middle School. So my dad picks me up during lunch hours, and we went to Daytona. And I basically wanted to go there just to meet Jeff Gordon. Not just for the qualifying race, but also getting to see Jeff Gordon for the first time. Because it was actually my first ever Speed Weeks at Daytona. And I wanted to make sure I get that out of the way. So I was able to do that. I got to meet Jeff Gordon. And I remember the exact words I said to him. I said, "Hey, you're Jeff Gordon. Hey, I know all about you and such." I don't know if those were the exact lines, but I do remember saying something like that. But yeah, it really was an awesome moment that I got to meet Jeff Gordon. I took a picture with him. I had my arm around his shoulder, and that was only because I was 13 years old. I didn't know what I was doing back then. I just did it because I was that excited. I think if I had to do it all over again, I probably would have done something a lot different, more maturity-wise. But definitely meeting Jeff Gordon was certainly one moment I'll never forget. Another one was getting my driver's license. And yes, for those who haven't noticed, or at least realized, or haven't kept up to date with me, most of you have, but some of them who have not. It was back in August of 2019, which was this year. Excuse me. So I got my driver's license this past August, and let me tell you something. It was a big, big deal to me. A huge, huge deal. So huge that I just could not even believe it. It was just a miracle. I had been taking so many practice sessions, behind the wheel, because my dad has he was taking me out to practice getting behind the wheel just before I would go ahead and take my driver's test. And I did actually pretty good for the most part. Kept the car clean, followed the rules of the road, and I was even saying to myself for a while that how can I be this good behind the wheel and basically not have a driver's license? And the reason being was that when I took the driving test, I didn't know what to expect at first. Because in January, I think, I didn't pass it the first time, and it definitely frustrated me because I put so much practice and effort into it, it just didn't work out. But things got a lot better when I took it the second time in August, which was actually, believe it or not, a week after my 21st birthday. Or was it before that? No, it was after. It was after I had turned 21 years old. And yeah. And what was disappointing about it was, and yes, there is a disappointing factor when I did pass the driving test, I was driving a Ford. And not a Chevrolet. I wish I was driving a Chevrolet when I passed that test, but instead I drove a Ford because of it. So that one worked out, and eventually I got my first car. It's a 2012 Chevrolet Impala SS. Really good car. It's a little bit old, but it's still a pretty good car to drive. It drives really good, and I've been having a lot of fun with it, and it's been awesome. Really, really awesome. I'm really happy with the fact that I got my driver's license because I didn't want it to wait any longer. I saw some of my friends, drive their cars, especially when they were in high school. I felt like I was left out, so I said, you know what? I'm actually going to go ahead and take this opportunity. It may have taken years later, but I got it done, and that's what mattered. And as far as another moment, the third one, and I do apologize for going this long on this 11th question because there's so much I wanted to say because I don't get to talk about this a lot. But obviously another moment for me would have to be it was around April of 2017. So there was actually 1 month before the prom, my high school senior prom. So I had a friend who introduced me to this person. Well, not introduced because I already knew this person for like 5 months. Yeah, for 5 months. Met this person. Her name was Isabel. Really, really nice person. That's actually the best memorable piece of story I'll ever share with at least one of my friends. That being, of course, Isabel. So she offered me to dance with her at the prom, and I remember having that conversation. And then after that, I said to myself, "Is this a trick? Like, I feel like this person's gonna probably forget. She's got to be bluffing for some reason." By the time I went to prom, I was there. Isabel was there. We got to dance with each other, and it was really, really awesome. And that's definitely the one memory I'll actually never forget for as long as I live. Because you got to remember, I don't think I said this earlier. I don't think I did, but I will mention this. When I was in school, I made friends, but I felt like I wasn't getting a whole lot of the respect. I may have gotten some, but maybe I just didn't realize it for myself. But over the years, I really made some real good friends in school. I kind of wish I did a lot more with them, and unfortunately I didn't, because I had my own different perspectives, or maybe my own different options of choosing and whatnot. But going to that prom, though, was definitely one of the top 3 moments of my life. I don't know where to rank it because it was such a memorable moment. Maybe second or third, I don't know. Maybe first. But it's certainly indeed Dancing with Isabel was one of the top moments of my life because of how much. Because I made a lot of friends in school. I didn't get a girlfriend during all those years while I was in K through 12, but certainly Dancing with Isabel was definitely a really, really cool moment, and I'll never ever forget that moment. That's going to be in my memory for many years to come. And who knows? I'll share this story with a lot of people, because that's definitely going to be the moment that's going to be my highlight reels in my head. and this story that'll tell to a lot of people and all that. So here's the 12th question. And I do apologize for taking that long, but here it is. What other animes are you interested in other than Dragon Ball? You know, I will say this. I'm only into Dragon Ball, but there's actually some that have come to mind. There's JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. That's one. I think a second one would be My Hero Academia, maybe. One Piece, maybe. Initial D, which a lot of people maybe don't know. So, those would be the animes I would at least be interested in, but not really. I don't know, I have to think long and hard about this because, you know, I've been watching Dragon Ball for a lot of years. I mean, I'm not really that big into anime. I'm not a huge anime fan. I'm only a huge NASCAR fan, but not a huge anime fan. I'm only a huge Dragon Ball fan. But who knows? Maybe one day I'll get to watch one of those series and see how I like it. But yeah, those are the list of animes that I might be considering watching, but I'll have to think long and hard about it. Okay, so here is the 13th and final question. And in case, and I do apologize for not bringing this up, I had 13 questions sent. This was supposed to be like a 10-question video, and it turns out it's going to be a 13-question video. And yes, folks, we are going into overtime, overdrive, whichever one you want to come up with. But this is the 13th and final question. And the question asks, what do you do to cheer up yourself when you have bad days? Advice for others. So what do I do to cheer myself up when I'm having bad days? I had a behavior specialist not too long ago, and one of the advice that he actually gave me was like maybe doing some like exercises, like stretching out my arms, doing some breathing, slow breathing, counting would be another one. Just basically just relaxing my body. But I think for the most part, what I do to cheer myself up is like when you're having one of those bad days, you just got to be able to let it go. And one thing that I actually do is I just, pop up my phone, I'll watch a certain video just to get the bad things out of my head. That would be one way I would do it, for example, or maybe perhaps play a video game, one that will not make me upset. So those are really like the basic ways I would cheer myself up. I really don't have a lot of advice for others, but I guess the one thing I should say is that when you are having a bad day, I would just try to walk away from the situation and just not even think about it, or at least talk about it. Perhaps maybe just go read a book, go grab a bite to eat, or, just go out for just a Sunday cruise, a Sunday drive, or whatnot. But I would not want to do it when I'm upset, though. That'd be the best way to not do it, is to basically, go out for a Sunday drive, but not really get too upset. So, yes, that's going to be about it. I am recording this video on December the 30th of 2019. If you are watching this video, Happy New Year's Day. Happy first day of 2020. Hopefully this decade will go really smooth for me, and I hope it will go for you as well. Thank you for watching this video, and folks, I hope to have more videos down the road. I don't know how much more I'll make of these, but I'm doing this by phone for now. Hopefully in the future I'll have some equipment that I'll have with me. This is basically not my room, for those who are just wondering just now. This is actually my man cave, the back room. So it's kind of like my secondary room, if you know what I mean. No, I'm just kidding. It's a room for everyone. But anyways, thank you for watching this video, and sorry about that. I hope you guys have a good rest of your day, and I'll see you later.